T-Force, now we going hard cause we bumping at the beat source. It's a 3-course dinner of dudes bringing the news and stats, interviews and casts from the pro scene. So fresh and so clean, like you're leaning with Nami in the bot lane. Keep it hot like brand, practicing his dot game, give it to you easy like you're Resi in a bot game. Imagine Draven at prime time, now ulti like LeBlanc can copy that 4 times, but manlier. Knock it up like now, fight planning a family-er. You gotta be tuned in like Sona on the ad wall, get on the chat call. Can our podcast really be all that? Of course. How do 4 guys make a Triforce?
Hey guys, welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and I am your host for episode number 204. You guys will see that we're joined by the normal people, except we are down 1 man. So I'm going to make this announcement once, and it's going to be only once. And Domenic, D. Chironi, Dom Nom Nom Nom, has left the Trinity Force family. He, citing he just doesn't really have time to take care of the podcast much anymore. He's moving into more, he's doing some job searches, trying to move on with his career. So being able to spend time on League of Legends and doing the podcast at the same time, he's not able to do it. So as much as we're going to miss having him around, we're very happy that he's actually pursuing other things that he loves in life. So Dom, thank you for your over a year patronage with the podcast, and you will be missed.
We love you, Dom.
Right.
Be sure to tune in.
But please continue to tune in as we are soldiering forward without Dom. I'm here, Adam. I said that earlier. Daze is with us.
Hey.
DeClaude is with us.
Yep.
And Chira.
I'm right here, and I just ate a bunch of cake, and I'm eating a peach, and I'm ready to roll.
I'm always ready to roll, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to call you Chira the Giant Peach.
Okay. Are you going to write a book for me?
No, you'll probably eat the peach before we can write it. So, But you guys will see one other picture on the stream. There's no camera quite yet, but Punchinello, who we've talked about in the past, Raymond Flint on Twitter, is going to sit in for Dom for a little while. And if he proves himself, he may become a full podcast member. So I'll say hi, Punch.
Hello, friends and T-Force listeners.
He's been on the podcast before. Everybody should notice that sexy voice. Now, you have prepared a Mulan song for us, I hear.
I did? What? I mean, I have in the past. I still got it memorized, I'm pretty sure.
We might have to
hear it again.
I'm gonna send that to Lancefer to make that the outro this week.
Great. Can't wait.
What was that?
That just fell.
My cat, I can't make it a single week without screwing something up.
All right, that's just gotta stay in now because that was
it.
fucking hilarious.
I love the best part was, as soon as that noise happened, she looks up like, I fucked up.
It was my cat. I tried. All right,
well,
we're good.
Blame the cat.
We're good.
all right, guys. So this last week in Worlds did happen. You guys probably all watched it. We definitely, Chira, Punch, and I all set up in Columbus, and we actually went out and had a T-Force gathering on Saturday at 1 p.m. at World of Beer, and we had a fantastic turnout. About 8 people showed up. We all got to sit around, drink beer, eat pizza, and talk League of Legends for, what was it, about 4 hours.
We
Yes.
were there
Wow.
for a while. It was great. It was fun.
Oh, striker time.
Yeah, we really did. It ended up being like 5 o'clock, and the guys are still ordering beer. And I'm kind of looking at everybody like, oh, holy shit, guys, I think we need to get back to the house because we're never going to stay up till 5 a.m. if we keep drinking like this.
Well,
Yeah.
and it doesn't help that it also happened to be homecoming weekend at Ohio State, which is like a block from my apartment. So, at one point we got stuck trying to go
to
northward
Canes.
in traffic for like an hour. And even with all my knowledge on how to get around, they were blocked off at every portion there was.
Right.
So it was great.
Yeah, it was the worst weekend for Worlds to happen. Thanks, Riot.
Thanks, Riot.
Oh, but it was quite a show.
I wish you both could have been there, and even including Dom, because it would have been fantastic to have everybody there and be able to talk at the bar. Because it was just like sharing knowledge with old friends the entire time. We learned about it, a bunch about each other. We shared a bunch of League of Legends stories, and like I said, we lost track of time just talking League of Legends. But it was a lot of fun. We'll definitely do it again next year. We'll have better planning next time, where we will have the time right, and we will make sure that everybody can show up.
Yeah, maybe I could show up for it with enough notice.
Now, hopefully the podcast can make sure everybody can show up for it next year.
And if you get to show up, I won't be the tallest person anymore, so it'll be great.
Well, a couple more announcements real quick before we move on. The Extra Life Marathon is going on this weekend, the Extra Life Gaming Marathon for charity. If you would like to help out with that, or at least watch it, Badger from the Battle Arena group is going to be streaming on the Trinity Force podcast channel. twitch.tv/T-Force podcast, starting on Thursday at noon until Friday at noon. He'll be taking 1 hour break for Journey to 30 if you want to catch that out later that night about 7 o'clock Eastern time. But please, stick around the T-Force channel, watch it out, help Badger, donate, he's got to have the stream overlay and all that stuff. But I think it's going to be a really good opportunity for you guys to, interact with Badger and the rest of the crowd. And I think some of us will try to show up that evening as well and play games with him. So, like I said, most of us work, but around 5, 6 o'clock, I'm sure some of us can jump in and start playing around with him.
What's the date again?
This Thursday, the 24th? Is that 23rd? It's Thursday the 23rd. Starting at noon Eastern time.
Yeah, 20.
Mark it.
Right. So we'll be around. We'll be on the channel. We'll be chatting and whatnot. Other than that, guys, Bronze Boot Camp does need your help. If you're a bronze level player, Saturdays at noon Eastern Daylight Time until about 3 or 4, you guys can jump in and get a lot of tips and be taught how to play this game at a higher level from higher level players. You'll jump in a 5v5. All you have to do is join the in-game chat channel T-Force. They're really looking for people. They said most of the people in there that started in bronze boot camp 2 months ago are now silver, and they're trying to find more bronzies. So instead, they've just been making it like a silver boot camp, but they want the bronze players. So that I wouldn't call out for it if you guys weren't making progress. Really, I think it's awesome.
Thing is, our longtime listeners are probably out of bronze by now.
I would
They're
hope
taking
so,
our advice.
Right. So take that advice you heard that week. Take that Master Yi top or that Scion jungle and show them how much you can wreck face in bronze boot camp.
Nice.
Other than that, we are just going to go ahead and move on. Actually, I want to say one other thing before we move on. Sorry, I know this is a longer intro, but I'm kind of recapping everything from Worlds and all that stuff. 2 more pieces of information. One, if you guys want to, there is a awesome Gatherer's Granola giveaway where you guys can win 6 packages of Gatherer's Granola. You can win $10 on RP, and you can win a Trinity Force Podcast t-shirt if you check out facebook.com/T-Force Podcast. There's a Gatherers, tons of Granolage giveaway tab right there. Just click on it. You have to like the page, like Gatherers, and give us your email address for verification purposes and submit. That's going until the end of the month. Click that, go join in, and get you some Granolage.
And it's delicious, so if you don't do it, you're missing out.
I know. I wish I could do it.
Free stuff, best stuff.
And Punch, if you signed up, you have been disqualified.
Damn it.
Sorry, buddy.
This was a trap, wasn't it?
It was all set up.
This is a bad idea.
Curse you!
Well, actually, I'm going to hold off on this next one until later in the podcast. It's going to be perfect, and it all has to deal around Punch. So we're going to move right into listener questions. Let's go ahead and talk about those. We're going to start off with FoeKingNoodles. He talks, when counter jungling, is it better to clear the entire camp to get a timer or to leave 1 minion so they have to clear it out? Is this jungler or matchup specific?
It's definitely jungle and matchup specific. So if you're playing a champ who has really good clear speed or a lot of counter jungle pressure, let's do an example. If you have the enemy's wraiths warded and you know that they're clearing their waves, their waves. Sorry. If you know they're clearing their wraiths, and you just happen to be near their jungle and they're slowly killing their wraiths, which is a pretty easy camp to clear, and you take their wolves, you could leave 1 monster there, but you know that they're going to be on their way there next because you have it warded. Again, wards showing a bunch of knowledge. We're providing a lot of knowledge. And if you end up just taking the whole camp and they show up and their wolves are gone, they are either going to completely bypass their wolves. They don't have a timer on their wolves, so they might just sit around for up to a minute for their wolves to spawn, or they're going to bypass the camp completely and go somewhere else. Either way, they're missing out on some XP. If they're a slow clear jungler, if I'm going to be jungling a lot, I prefer killing all the minions but one just so they have one sitting there. But if I come back later and I see that same minion hasn't been killed, like let's say that I took their wraiths and they have 1 wraith still up and that wraith's been up for 5 minutes. The next time I go in there and they have all their wraiths there, I'm just going to clear the whole thing. Because if I'm spending my time there, I want to get something out of the time that I'm spending. And if I go back and that thing isn't there, yes, they haven't gotten it, but I'm also wasting my own time going to something that's already been cleared. So it's super dependent on just having a feel for what the enemy jungler can do. knowing kind of how fast they can clear portions of their jungle, knowing what segment of their jungle that they're in. If they're bot lane ganking and they don't pull a successful gank off and you're on the top side of the map and you can't do anything about it, go and take their jungle and take whatever you can. Leave one minion up, and then they have 2 camps that have 1 minion, and they're going to come back from their failed gank and even be more behind. It comes back down to just playing a lot of jungle matchups and knowing what you're doing in the jungle, and playing a lot of games to just have that, like, knowing how to do things perfectly instantly in the jungle, that will actually really give you a big edge when you go to clear these certain things. But it's definitely both a jungler and matchup specific thing.
I'd say earlier in the jungling, earlier in the game, you probably want to leave one up just to screw up their whole rotation. And they're spending more time getting the 2 or 3 or 4 attacks off to kill that little minion while you run around ganking another lane. But later in the game, if you're pushing up the pressure, let's say you have their middle turret down, they don't have yours, and you have a little bit of more map control, you might want to take the buff, at least the full buff camp, so that you have the timer on it, because you want to spawn again so you can take it again. If you're kicking their ass.
If you're a powerful counter jungler, there's no reason you shouldn't completely clear an enemy buff camp just so you know when the timer is at, and you can show up and murder them there later. Or they don't even know when it's going to spawn and you'll just take it again.
Right. That's kind of the rule of thumb I have, is if you know that you can contest it when it respawns later, then I'd say take out the entire camp just so you have the timer. I mean, that's, like you said, that's particularly important if you're a duelist jungler. Like, I think Udyr is kind of like the epitome of this, right?
He always ends up being a great example for
of
these
he always wants to
aggressive
fight
junglers. Right.
So if I'm playing Udyr, I'm going to take out the entire camp, and the next time it spawns, I'm going to be there, and I hope the enemy jungler is going to be there too, so I can kick his ass.
I want to say that I think it's kind of like a lifestyle you're choosing when you're counter jungling. There's not really good people who are gankers, counter junglers, gankers, counter. You don't spend most of the game doing both. You're really picking one or the other. You're either picking to clear your jungle and gank, or you're picking to counter jungle and really disrupt the enemy jungler while trying to get ganks in or counter ganks when you can. If you watch Worlds this weekend, for example, when Dade played Rengar. Sorry, I was kind of calling Dandy.
Dandy. It is Dandy.
It is Dandy. What am I thinking?
Dade is Samsung Blue's mid laner.
Yeah, that's why I got.
He's the one who gave the jacket.
Yes, when Dandy was playing Rengar, for example, and it was one of the later games, he spent a lot of time on Rengar in his jungle trying to farm as quickly as he could to 6, but he also knew when the enemy jungler was going to counter gank, and that's something that you need to realize. If your initial salvo, you get in there, you try to counter jungle, and it doesn't work out for you. Now you need to start paying attention. Okay, the jungler took a buff at this time. I need to be ready because I know the jungler is going to get blue at 6 minutes, and then he's probably going to gank bottom lane. And going off of blue versus white versus Starhorn Royal Club, he knew exactly when that was going to happen, when Pantheon was going to man drop, when all that was going to come down. So it's all this sixth sense you start getting into the game. And the same thing goes with counter jungling. You know that after you take that buff, in a minute and a half it's going to spawn again. You're right back for it, and you know that person's going to be trying to go for it because they want that Wraith camp so bad, because that's so much XP they're missing out on.
And here's the other thing too, in a situation like that, you can even look in game 1 when Dandy was playing Jarvan. Like, they had the entire bottom. Yeah, they had the entire bottom section of the jungle warded. Every single camp they had vision
followed
of.
them around. They deep warded every single camp.
If you look at that, and we talked about this at my apartment, it isn't the fact that you just completely warded the bottom half of their jungle. By process of elimination, if they're not in that bottom segment of the jungle, they're in the top part of the jungle. So you know when to play safe. That's crazy. Like, that's a huge, huge advantage, just knowing where they're not at.
Mm-hmm. And knowing what camps you can take.
By a lot of words.
Go ahead, Dace.
Pay attention to your team, too. It doesn't matter if you're Udyr, if their team's going to respond and your team doesn't. It doesn't matter how great of a counter jungler you are, or how competent you are, or what champion you're playing. If they're mid and top and jungle collapse on you, you're going to die. And conversely, if you're in a Mumu, but your entire team can follow you into their jungle and, make something happen there and catch their jungler out. So just keep in mind what your team's capable of, how good the communication is. Sometimes you'll get great teams in solo queues. Sometimes you'll get terrible ones. So you're going to have to adjust for every game.
Right. It's, I think a lot of...
So sorry we couldn't give you a black and white, always do this, always do that, but it's not that simple.
Right.
It's way more complicated than that, especially as you become a better jungler.
Well, I was just about to say, and I talk to Cherry about this all the time. I say, Cherry, you are a feel jungler. You play this game completely by feel. And I think a lot of the pro level players, while they have all that knowledge, they look at the timers, they know what's going to happen. A lot of jungling is feel. You've done it 100, 200 times, so you know if I am here, this person's going to be here, and vice versa. And that same thing's going to go with counter jungling. You know it. That buff spawns at 155, so by 230 they're going to be walking over to by their red buff, so you know you can intercept him by then. That type of thing. You just kind of move on that point, and I can do the first 6 minutes of a game as a jungler, and then after that it completely falls apart for me because I don't have the experience.
Well, and it's not even it isn't even necessarily just knowing what's going to go on with the jungle too. It's this one game Adam got really mad at me because he was playing top lane Yi.
Canceller?
Yeah, this was that game, and I was playing Lee Sin, and I go up top lane because I know they're not warded, and we end up getting a kill, and Adam burns we both burn our flash, and he goes back, and I'm pushing the lane, and the lane there's a big wave getting up the turret, and he's like, don't push the lane, don't push the lane. I'm like, I know what I'm doing, I'm pushing lane, and Adam's yelling at me and doing all that stuff. And then
I called him the Canceller of League of
Legends. Called me the Cancer of League of Legends.
No, Canceller.
Yeah, and then and then the enemy teleports up, isn't warded. I just sit in that bush. The wave's kind of pushing in his direction, and he tries to all in Adam as soon as he gets back to lane, and I'm waiting there, and we kill him. And next thing you know, Adam's up 2 kills, and the game is over for that guy. There are things you just can't learn to do in this game without doing it or failing to do it over and over again over the course of a long period of time. It's definitely, or just putting in an insane amount of games. It's definitely an experience and just a weird muscle memory when it comes to playing.
Well, good. You know what? We'll go ahead and put that one to rest. That question has been
put that baby to bed.
Well, I guess we'll go ahead and move on. I might give Days some time to talk here. She looks really sad. She has been ignored all day. Maybe I'll have to pull up a support question or something.
Her cat's knocking stuff off her desk.
I know.
Maybe she can make up for it. You know what? Just ruining my podcast over there.
We'll see.
Jesus Christ. We'll go ahead and move on. You know what? I'm not going to give it to you. I'm giving it to Punch next. Klalan Liaster writes in, I am an ADC main, but I have been jungling recently, and I'm relatively inexperienced player. After my first clearing ganks, I'm not sure what to do. When is the best time to gank as a jungler? When is the best time to farm?
Oh, I think I know why you gave me this. Because once upon a time, I was playing marksman, because I'm a marksman main, I was having fun, and then Punchinello messages me and says, hey, do you want to play jungle? I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I can jungle. I mean, I jungle in solo queue all the time. And then I fell flat on my face because,
Then he fed Riven double buffs.
Oh yeah, that was the Punchinello specialty. Is take double buffs to top lane and give them to the enemy top laner. Perfect. As far as this question goes, most of the time when you're jungling, I'm gonna say you're a supportive jungler. I'll talk about carry junglers later, but on the topic of a supportive jungler, you want to mainly focus on getting your lanes ahead. So in order to do that, you need to be watching the lanes while you're killing creeps, so that you know if top lane is overextended, or hell, if your lane, the person on your team is overextended. Then that's going to give you information. You need to plan ahead while you're jungling. You need to watch the map, and you need to know where you think the enemy jungler is. So if top lane is overextended, well, that's a good opportunity for you to go gank. You can stop killing creeps. You can go gank top lane, get your top laner ahead. If your top laner is overextended, well, the enemy jungler might be ganking that lane soon. So you kind of want to be in that area to counter gank if possible. That doesn't necessarily mean waiting in the bush there, because you'll be wasting time. And as the
sit as Kha'Zix in the top lanes and eat a rumble spear to the face. Hey, I just spent 4 minutes up here, but
yeah, you don't necessarily want to do that. As the listener writes, there is a balance between killing creeps and actually ganking. But if you're wary of the enemy jungler ganking, you kind of want to be in the area just so you can counter gank, which means you could be killing creeps in the area, right? So if you think that the enemy jungler is going to gank top lane, then you can just be killing Gillums and then watch top lane and see if that gank occurs. And if the gank occurs, you immediately stop killing Gillums and you go in and attack. So, we already talked about jungle a lot, and it's it's the role that requires the most game sense. And especially coming from a different role like ADC, when you just jump into jungle, it's going to be very foreign to you. Because your main adversary, the enemy jungler, you can't see. You get a sense of where he is by where you're at and by how often you play jungle.
Yeah, I like what you were saying about try to be where you think the enemy jungler is going to be. After the initial clear, the writer mentions and ganks. I'm assuming maybe it's level 2 or 3 gank and then going back. So you're about level 3, level 4. Now what do? You head back. You start hitting the respawns to either golems, to wraiths, to wolves. I'm talking blue side. Or I usually don't go after the white just because it kicks my ass usually, and I play champions that are not Udyr, like Sejuani, who can take
rough for some early jungler.
And a Mumu. Yeah, so, but I'd rather have the multi-clear. I play Scion jungle a lot now, so I want more minions to add to my health counter, so I'll go for the wraiths. I'll prioritize the wraiths and the wolves and the golems because it's multiple camps. But while I'm there, I'm looking at the other lanes, and just like Punch was saying, if they're overextended, like if I see mids overextended, they're just bullying and they're doing a good job, I'll maybe hang up by my blue side golems to babysit bot. Or maybe I'll go in and grab the wolves real quick. And you're in that area, you're doing something, and you're waiting for a gank. Now, sometimes you can get sneaky, pull a Chira, go up into a lane bush and wait for them to come back to the lane. If they just pushed them out, for example, or if you know they have teleport and your laner, let's say top lane, the Nasus just went back and he has teleport. He's going to come back with an item or so. You can hide in that little bush, invest some time. He's going to come back. Then hopefully your top laner is on the same page. Like Daze was saying before with our previous question, make sure that your team's on the same page. Hang out and wait. You're soaking up a little XP. Sure, you're not getting the killing blows for him, but you're soaking XP, so you're not really falling that far behind. Maybe you're putting your laner behind a slight amount, but not too bad. Then they come back and boom, dogpile their ass, get a kill and assist. It's worth it. Doesn't matter who gets killing blow. Just don't let them get away. But after that, I like the idea of be near a camp. So at least you're doing something.
I'm going to try and do a pretty simple breakdown for this. So the first thing that I think of like after the first clear is, do I know where the enemy jungler started? If they started blue buff, then they got red buff, and they're probably looking, depending on what side they are, to gank whatever 2 lanes are closest to the buff that they took second. If you know what side they started, that takes a lot of the guesswork out on what lanes are probably going to need help right at the end of your first clear. So let's say enemy's red side, they took their blue, they took red, they're going to be top lane, they're either probably going to gank top or middle. Then you want to look at which lanes are pushed up. Are your mid lane or top lane pushed up? If yes, that means it is pretty likely that the enemy jungler is going to end up trying to gank one of those 2 lanes. Usually the lane that's more pushed, especially if there is any sort of CC on the enemy champ that's currently laning in that lane, or if there's CC on the jungler that could potentially gank those lanes. If the enemy is shoving up, that's primo time for you to be able to gank, which means that the enemy jungler might try to counter jungle that as well. So you might even want to like ward a bush on your way or something like that. But there's like a pretty, you can almost like map out a thought process for if they take this buff first and they're going to go this buff second, and that's probably the end of their clear, then they're probably going to be trying to look to gank at the end of their clear. That's sort of like jungling 101. Once you clear, whatever section of the map that you're in, you look to see if you can make something happen. The trap that people will fall into is that they'll feel like they're at the end of their clear and they're forced to make something happen. And that's like when counter ganking becomes a huge thing. Because if they go into gank and they really try to force a play to happen, so say a Mumu comes out of the jungle to gank top lane and he burns his flash Q, misses his Q, he's already flashed, and you're there as well, and you just show up, turn around, and kill him because now he can't, Q away to a minion and he doesn't have flash. So, again...
That's a good point. I wanted to... The flash is down. If you notice somebody in a lane doesn't have an escape, I had a game today. I was Scion jungle. Top did not have flash. They had teleport ignite for some retarded reason. So I knew I could go in there and gank and I would get the kill. So that's another thing that'll direct you. Regardless of where the enemy jungler is, you're like, oh, free money. There's a free kill over here. I'm going when I'm ready.
A big piece of advice for this is whatever side of the map you're on where you're at, if you've cleared all the minions on one side of the map, look to see if you can make something happen in either lanes. Not that you could force something to happen in either lane that you're near, but look to see if there's like the potential for something to happen. If you feel like you have an 80% plus success rate, go do it. But never feel like just because you've cleared your camps that you have to go to a lane and make something happen.
Yeah, monitor flash usage too for maximum opportunities, as DeClaude was saying. Ask your laners if the enemy uses flash, if they don't call it out in chat, and that'll pretty much direct you where your next gank is going to be. And also, I wanted to bring up after the first clear, when things get a little more hectic, you don't always know where the jungler is going to be, unless of course you're Chira and you play a ton of games and you got the sixth sense going. But after the first clear, I'd say buy some wards. And that's pretty much the answer to all your problems, no matter what role you're playing. But buy some wards and then place them around the jungler, around the river, inside the enemy jungle if you can, just to see where the enemy jungler is going to be after that first clear.
Yeah, you can ward your own jungle. Throw a pink and like the singular bush in the middle of river. You'd be amazed at how many times people just walk past that, and it will save people from tons of stuff.
I like to start sweeper on my jungler, just in case my bot lane gets trounced. Then I'll run into that river bush, I'll sweep it. Usually there's a totem ward or something there. I'll kill it, and then I'll leave. But then the bullying enemy bottom lane backs off because they think I'm still in that bush. And I get a little bit of pressure back from bottom lane, and I'm killing the golems or whatever's nearby, or the white, depending on the side. And then they're waiting for a gank, and it's not happening. So
I have a strategy I really like if you can have your follow up with it. If the enemy, and this is for blue side playing against red side, if the enemy pink wards your side's tri-brush, and your support's going to go clear it, and it looks like their support's sort of moving up. I love sitting on that one side of the wall where they can't see you, and the support's like killing it, and their support comes in like, oh, hell no, you're not taking my pink.
Trap.
And then as soon as their support commits to knocking your support off the pink, you just go and murder that son of a bitch. I love that play.
it happens a lot.
A lot. I've been on both sides of that.
I hate when they kill my pink. I'm like, I gotta defend it.
You feel like you're spending like 100 gold. God, like that's such a, especially just after you placed it. Sometimes you just gotta let it go, folks.
Not worth it.
And don't be afraid to stop clearing a camp to help a lane if you need to. Like, walk away if you have to, even if you didn't finish clearing it.
It'll be there when you get back.
It's an OCD thing for a lot of people, including myself, where you just have to finish it. But you got to get over it.
So if you reach the end of your clear, look to see if you can make something happen. If you have to force something to happen, you probably shouldn't overcommit to something. If there's really nothing you can do in either lanes and you're pretty sure that their jungler's not going to be able to do anything either, you can go and keep clearing. But if you absolutely have no idea what you should do at all, I am always of the opinion if your team is able to follow up ever, you should go in and try and be an asshole in their jungle, just because there are so many times you'll walk into their jungle and if they're afraid of you or you were able to get a kill early, they'll just sort of fold and back off. And if their laners don't help them, then you can just kind of do whatever you want in their jungle and they're screwed. Right. And you're setting them back even farther. And if you know where they're at, they're not ganking your lanes, which is helping your lanes out as well. So there's so many different things that goes on when you can't see what's going on in certain segments of the map. And that's, again, why I tell you to ward. But
that's why I like what Punch said. If you're in doubt and you don't know what to do, you're clearing your jungle, whatever the case, you have no idea where they are, just throw wards. You're helping your team. You're getting vision. Put wards out. Ward their jungle, your jungle,
that's
the river.
Much better than doing nothing.
When in doubt, ward.
I think this kind of answers Alec's question too. Alec had wrote in and said, how do I maximize lane presence from the jungle while also maximizing the creep score? More specifically, how much gold or CS is a gank worth, failed or not? And we kind of answer that. Flashes are worth your ganks. Anything that puts the enemy later at a disadvantage is worth your time when you're ganking. If
you have a spirit item and you've already used both charges on it, you can min-max gold potential by, hey, you alrety blow both your charges, so you've gotten a bonus 80 gold out of that. And you're still waiting for your stacks to build up. Yeah, you're still waiting for stacks to build up, especially like easy stacks like Wraith or something else. Go make something happen in middle. Go make something happen top. Worst case, it doesn't happen. You're still going to get a little gold boost when you get back to lane because your stacks are going to be built back up. So there's a lot of little tricks and a lot of little things that people just don't
And
pay
hey, you can
attention
lane
to.
tax as well. You can do what Chira did and push the lane down after you get a kill, and then the person calls you the canceller of League of Legends.
And
'cause
then
he's
you
a
show up
giant
and you
asshole.
save the day anyway. But,
And then they love you.
yeah.
Well, Days won't stop giving me the eye, so I'm guessing I'll allow her to talk here soon. Question, Jesus Christ. What
She's
might
good
be an
at
appropriate
interrupting
time? Oh, sorry. Truth AM writes, what may be an appropriate time to get some of the lesser used support items like Zeke's Herald or Banner of Command? I try to look at both team comps to determine what might be most beneficial, but if there are no obvious things to itemize for, I frequently find myself at a loss.
I got a question real quick. Does Banner of Command work with Azir's minions?
No,
No, because they're not minions.
they're not
They're
minions.
spells.
But I wish they were minions.
I know.
I haven't played enough Azir. I figured I'd ask the Azir master.
There you
Adam
go.
Ponophobia Cogswell.
I
Who
killed.
didn't even
Days,
play
do
Azir.
I played him
Do
once.
you use Banner of Command on? Do you do Burning Bush Zero at all?
I don't
do
use Banner of Command on her at all. I don't
Okay.
use it. Well, I feel like there's two different questions here. You're asking about the ones that you haven't used, and then it just seems like you're not really sure about what to build unless, like you said, there's something really obvious that you're going to need to itemize against. So I kind of want to cover Zeke's and Banner first because they are things that you don't see used very often. And sometimes you'll see them built, but there are good reasons why they're not built and they're not as viable as some of the other items or not as useful. With Zeke's, the only two times that I ever would consider using it are on Leona and Thresh. And that's just because they can both take advantage of all the stats that it offers. The health will help them in lane. The AD, Thresh has his ranged auto attack. Leona has the ability to stick on people, and she has an auto attack reset, so she can get 3 quick autos off in a row. And then, of course, the CDR really helps both of them out. But the lifesteal isn't really important, but it's only 10%. So you're still getting pretty much the entire effectiveness out of that item on those two. But as far as the other melee supports go, Tarek, you're not able to stick on people. Braum, again, you're not going to get that close to somebody. If you are, you probably should have been poked down a long time ago. So you're not going to be able to use a good portion of these stats in what you're trying to accomplish. The thing I hear most about Zeke's when people are talking about it is that it's extremely gold efficient, and it is. If you look just at the stats and how much you're paying for it, it is technically a very gold efficient item.
But Zeke still builds out of the Vamp Scepter, right?
Right. It builds out of the Kindle Gem and the Vamp Scepter. And Vamp Scepter isn't something you're really going to be able to take advantage of as any of these in the support role in general. And in general, it's more about the efficiency of the stats on you personally rather than just is it an efficient item in general. So with those two, you can at least make use of some of the AD and things like that. But it's a $2,550 gold item, so that's a lot of gold for support. You're making a conscious decision to go with that instead of Randuin's, instead of Locket, instead of some of the more traditional and usually useful items. The only time I would really go it on Leona or Thresh is if you were playing with an assassin mid and an AD top that are very auto attack reliant, because then you can make use of the aura that you get. And even then, it's much more useful when you're all together. So it's really not going to be as useful for you while you're in bottom lane. Yeah, it will help your AD a little bit, but really you want to be thinking about your entire team on it. As far as your other supports go, your sustains and your poke, you're going to get nothing out of this. So you're spending 2,500 gold on it, and unless you're grouped up, most of the stats are going to be useless. You're on those supports, you're going to want to be building Mikhail's for I'm sorry. For CC, you're going to be wanting the heal off of Mikhail's, and those will keep your AD alive a lot longer than the extra 10% lifesteal that they're getting from your aura. So if you're going to play...
If your name is Crepo, that's all you scream about on Twitter right now.
Right, exactly.
Items.
There's a reason that everyone screams about that item, and it just is. It's an incredible
And you get
item.
it early.
Right, and it's an item you can rush. The core components of Mikhail's, either you can rush the magic resist or you can rush the magic regen. There's not a part of that item that's not relevant,
Right.
opposed to Zeke's, where you're really not going to want or need a Vamp Scepter in lane.
Right, and I was going to say
kibble
to supplement what you're saying. Sorry for cutting you off there. I know
That's
you were in the middle of a bit, but with the core items, the reason like Crepo and all of them have been screaming about buy McHale's, don't finish your Frost Cleams, don't finish your your other support items, whatever it is, buy McHale's, is because that extra health and that one stun removal, even if there's only one stun on the team, makes such a difference in a team fight when they don't have that like a Quicksilver Sash to remove that stun from themselves. Punch, how many times as an AD carry do you wish somebody was removing stuns from you?
Every game.
Every time you get stunned.
And you won't have a Quicksilver Sash until, 35 minutes in the game, and they could have that first item done at 15 minutes as a support.
Yeah, I can get McHale's usually in lane.
Yes,
like
10 minutes
I'll
then.
finish. Yeah, I'll upgrade my my GP10, and then I will start building McHale's. And usually and I'll get my Sightstone, and usually I can have that done while I'm still laning. And the ability that it gives you to sustain your AD. And the number of people who don't look at your items before they all in, and they'll go all in, and then you remove all their CC, and you give your AD a bunch of health, and you win trades, and nobody even knew it happened. So yeah, it's a great item, especially if you can get it early enough. They nerfed the item by increasing the cost, and it didn't affect at all the people getting it. Like it's still such a good item, even though they upped the cost of it, that there's really no reason to pick it up, to not pick it up.
Also,
Go ahead.
Sorry, but
No.
don't feel pigeonholed to buy only support items either. Let's say you're a good support, and you got your McHale's, and you got your Sightstone, and you upgraded your gold generation item. You don't need to buy more support items. Like Truth is asking about, the off-color support items. You don't need them. You can build defensive items. You can build tank items. You could build a Frozen Heart.
You can build
a
DFG.
Randuin's OM. Yeah, and if you're Zyra or Karma, some AP champion that can contribute to the damage, yeah, buy your Rabadons. Get some ability power.
I would say if you're support like that, someone asked, who was it? Lee from Oswald had asked me, what he built. And I said it's really super matchup dependent. I might have to go the McHale's route as support Annie, but I also might have to go full AP because I'm just wrecking fools in the bottom lane. And if I'm wrecking fools, I'm going to buy a DFG first and foremost, because that extra 20% magic damage people are taking, it's from all sources. It's not just from me. So why wouldn't I, smack somebody with that when I drop Tibbers down on their face? You're being a support, but you're also doing damage if you decide to go that route.
And
It's like
think of it
any
this way:
other-
when in doubt, when you're looking at stats and items as a support, cooldown reduction is probably the most important stat as a support.
That's like one of my favorite stats in
wanna-
the game, period.
Yeah, you want to use your abilities more because that's where you're making your impact, not on the damage that they do or the ratios and everything. It's just being able to use your abilities. So if you're in doubt, you're sitting there, I don't know what to get, look at the cooldown. Just filter cooldown reduction in your items and see what looks interesting.
I know I've played this game too long, when every time I read Zeke's, I always just put Starks in front of it anyway.
It's like
It'll
any
always be Starks forever.
support's just
Yes.
like any other role. If you're snowballing, you want to do whatever you can to continue that and to help your AD and to snowball your lane in your team. So if you can build some items, if you're an AP and you can build that damage, or if you're Leon or Thresh and you can build that tankiness so that you can all in more often, whatever you can do to really improve your lead, then you want to do it. You just want to have a reasoning behind everything you do. And the only other thing, that if you are looking at your team comp and you have an AD and you have an AD mid and you are assassin mid and you have an AD top champion, then you might want to alter your mastery so that you don't take that extra CDR, because this offers 20% CDR, and then you're going to be getting CDR in your GP10 item. There's so many ways to get CDR in the game that if you can take mastery somewhere else because you're going to be buying this item, if you think ahead of time that you will, then that's probably a good foresight to use.
I'm sorry.
The cat.
I know. I can feel her behind me.
No. So the entire time you're talking, like, you're making great points, but this cat is like, she reaches up and slowly pulls itself up the chair as slow as it can, and I'm trying my hardest not to laugh. Oh god. You guys, if you're not watching live, you have to go find this point. It's like 40 minutes into the podcast. Dave's cat just like a spider.
Creeping around.
Oh, God. Well, I guess, this kind of moves into another question from Furry Ewok. He writes in, support items have a lot of cooldown reduction and actives. Do these make ideal support builds impossible? Does the role become too overwhelming due to the actives?
No, it takes a long time to get used to, though. Like I have, when I was first learning support, I had stickies all over my monitor. It said use Mikhail's, use Locket, and it'll take a long time to get used to it. The best thing that I can tell you to do is put your items on the same spot. So if you're consistently playing certain champions, then, for instance, I have my 7 key bound to my space, and that's where usually I put my Mikhail's.
How do you set the camera?
I have it on one of my mouse buttons.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and then I have my Frost Queen or my Shirelias on my 1, and I have my wards on my 2. And if you do that, then it becomes just muscle memory, and you don't even think about it when you're doing it. And that takes a lot of the work of trying to figure out what active you're pushing and what button you're pushing. And then you can just focus on executing it. But it does take a long time. I had a game yesterday where I had 4 different actives on, plus my sight stone, plus my 4 abilities, my trinket.
Don't forget to set up certain slots through the 1 through 5 as either SmartCast or non-SmartCast.
Mm-hmm.
You should have at least 2 slots that are SmartCast.
All of my warding slots are SmartCast too, so I can ward quickly. So I know whether I can they're in a bush, I can kill them or run away.
I keep all my wards off of SmartCast, so I know where to put it by paying attention to the cursor.
We can hold it down and it still shows the cursor.
Yeah, it does. I have almost everything.
It doesn't place until release.
Right.
I have almost all of mine on SmartCast except for Frost Queen, because it only goes as far as your cursor is. So if it's in the right direction but too close to you, then it'll explode before it goes the whole distance. So, but yeah, most of mine are on SmartCast too. It's just practice. So much in this game is just practice and muscle memory.
Well, it's going to be that same issue that a lot of people run into. The moment somebody moves from pressing the abilities to actually smart casting abilities, it's a huge shock if you haven't done it. And then after a week of doing it, it's like, holy shit, why wasn't I doing this before?
Exactly.
I still don't smart cast anything. Nothing is
Tom.
smart cast.
All right, Saint Vicious.
All right, Optimus Tom.
I just can't do it. I've tried. I've been like, all right, this is going to improve my efficiency, but no, it doesn't work for me. I end up throwing words all over the place or whiffing things and shooting stuff behind me. It's like, all right,
I've said 100 times over that I love the fact that I can do normal cast and smart cast on Q and shift Q, because I find myself all the time. I don't even know what champions it is. Some champions I do it, and I just some will be super smart cast, some will be fast. Like Zig, so I will sometimes smart cast his Qs, and other times I will meticulously find out where I want to drop that Q at with the normal cast. Like there's all sorts of things because I want to see where the little indicator was. And if you guys don't do that, either turn on smart cast indicators or go into the game and make your shift and then the button press to be your non-smart cast. You can either do it either way, and you'll find that learning new champions, having smart cast off is very, very helpful because you need to know ranges. I know for a very long time I was playing the smart cast only, and I had a very hard time knowing active ranges or ward ranges or where the little circle ended, like Ziggs' satchel charge. I didn't know where the little circle ended, so I could push myself away. Or if you guys listen to episode 1 through 20, Ranhert used to say she should only normal cast the gate from Vagar, so you know where it starts and ends.
That's a good point, because you can stun them immediately.
Right. So I guess we'll go ahead and move on to another question, unless you guys have more to bombard our listeners with. No? Good.
Move on.
Caitlin writes in, and this is a question I'm going to kind of end the podcast with. We might talk about one more after this. How would you describe League of Legends to a completely gaming illiterate individual while still conveying enough detail for him or her to understand what it is? I actually have a very good answer for this, but I want to let you guys go ahead before me.
All right, I got something. So, in an attempt to strip it down to as bare bones as possible into a single statement, I would begin with something like, League of Legends is a 5 vs 5 team-oriented game where each player controls a single character, and the objective is to take out the enemy team's base. And I think from there, you can discuss, well, how do you take out an enemy team's base? And, what are items? And what's gold? And how do you get gold? But I think you have to start with something simple like that, with the key components being, it's a team game, and see what the objective is.
I will, as days know, I've been going on a lot of dates recently, so I've had to explain this question more than once because kind of my
you were
gauge.
born for this.
Yeah, the way I gauge most people I talk to is, how much I'm going to like them or how much they're going to like me is I'll say, listen, I do an internet radio show every Monday and Wednesday about a video game. Okay, well, what's the video game? It's called League of Legends. It's really popular. People get paid to play it. Well, explain it to me. Then I kind of go into what Punch says. And as they bring it up, you slowly introduce them. Well, League of Legends is a 5v5. You try to kill the enemy base. Well, explain more about it. Why are people being paid to do this? Because there's a lot of strategy involved. There's different styles of play you can do in the game. People each have their own individual characteristics inside the game, and it really allows people to, kind of like an NFL where you have a linebacker, a running back, a wide receiver, tight end, whatever it may be, quarterback. There's all those are filled within this game in various roles. And it makes it very exciting to watch once you start to really get in depth, understand the game, and people are so excited to hear about the game that they listen to us talk about it. And then, that goes on from there. And then the conversation just explodes from that point. So actually, I think Punch really hit the nail on the head with this one.
Yes. I was going to mention the football thing too, but more like a receiver and a safety because they're kind of battling it out to get to the right position. Mm-hmm. But on the other note, I put a lot of excitement. I'm like, oh man, League of Legends is so fun. It's a team game, and once you're finished with the game, it restarts, you move on. There's no grind you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about somebody being better than you as far as their gear goes or getting an advantage on you. A lot of players I'll talk to are previous MMO players and telling them about League because a lot of people play MMOs. So I'll be like, okay, well, it's not really an MMO at all. It's like a mini game. Picture a battleground in an MMO, but everybody has pretty much the same gear to start, the same level. And I just have a lot of excitement when I talk about it. I'm like, it's really fun. There's so many champions you can pick and play. They all have unique abilities. You can read up on them before you go into a game and just have fun.
Adam, not too long ago, you got your brother started playing League of Legends. How did you introduce it to him?
I think it's easier when you have somebody that plays video games for a living and can play. He knew that I really liked the game, so it's a good question, but it doesn't really work in the sense that he already understood that it's a video game and is able to pick up on video games easier because the definition of fighter, tank, support, whatever it may be, is kind of really ingrained into video gamers. Mm-hmm. But to really get him excited and involved is the same thing I've been doing with a lot of people I've been talking to, guy and girl alike, is come and watch me do a podcast once. Come and listen to it. Come watch it live. Come sit down and play a game with me. Come and sit down and watch a game with me, and I'll really get you into it. Because once I start explaining every piece of the game to you, and I think I need everybody out there, if you are a budding journalist, a budding podcaster, whatever it may be, do not be afraid to talk about League of Legends. Do not be afraid to say this is what you do. Now, you can sugarcoat it like I do. I do an internet radio show. Okay, what about? Well, it's about video games, but here's why you should pay attention to it.
In case you don't know what a podcast is.
And there are a surprisingly large amount of people who don't know what a podcast is.
There's a lot. That's why I've taken the call to an internet radio show.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day,
the old
that's what
people
it is
like
too,
me,
so.
like the pod people, what? Speak English.
But yeah, if you're listening right now and you're budding and you want to get out there, you're trying to make yourself, do not be afraid to talk to family and friends about it. Be proud of what you do. Be proud of what you stand for. Be proud of your work. I am proud that I talk about a video game every Monday and Wednesday. And if, by God, if you cannot accept that, you're not in my life, that type of thing. So that, to take this question one step further, I think a lot more people need to.
If you're going to spend a lot of time doing something, you need to own it because it's a part of you. So just, who cares?
Right.
Whatever.
Days loves me no matter what I do.
It's kind of like chess. But 10 people
Well, that's what I was going to say, DeClaude. It's League of Legends is a 5 versus 5 chess game where each person gets to pick one character, and the characters change from game to game, but the goal remains the same: total domination of the other team.
Unless you're a pawn, then you're the queen.
Yeah.
I've tried getting several people to play. And originally I was just like, just come play, there's 5 people and you fight it out and you try to take the Nexus, and they get in. It's a frustrating game to play, especially if you've never played an an MMO before, if you've never played strategy games, it's a lot to pick up. There's a lot of information and things like that.
There's a lot going on the screen.
Right. It's overwhelming. Like, I remember my first time playing, and it's just an overwhelming experience. But if you go to people and you tell them up front that it's a strategy game, and if you stress that part of it, then people seem more accepting to the learning curve because they know that there's things behind the scenes that they don't understand yet. And it's not just, I'm fighting and I'm losing. There's something that they need to learn and can accomplish with it.
And stress that it's free. Hey, it's free. Go play it. You have nothing to lose. You know, people who pay money to the game creator don't actually have any kind of competitive bonus whatsoever. So
tell them that it's free
download,
and then wink at them.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Right.
No, because if they're just playing for the first time, it's free. You know, you're figuring out what the game is. Once you start falling in love with it and you want to dress up Barbie, then you start spending money. But
unless you're a girl, then it's still free.
How many messages have you received, Days? I almost sent you something
About
earlier
what?
from Cringe Pics where a guy got a message, or a girl got a message, like a friend request. So she accepts it, probably because she doesn't get very many. So like, oh, a friend sent me a friend request. And the guy's like, hey, I'm a guy and I'm 18 and I want to send you skins and not, like that type of shit. Do you go through that a lot out of curiosity? Or have you in the past?
I have a lot. I was with another community before this where I actually taught people, and I got a lot of skins from that. And there's some creepy people that I've met, especially when I was, on Reddit trying to help people. That was interesting. But I have to say, this community's been great. Like, I have people add me all the time and thank me for their help or for my help and ask for advice or for me to watch replays. And I accept everyone's friend requests. And everyone here has been really great and respectful and nice. But yeah, it happens and it's going to happen. I think that if you're a girl and you've been gaming for a long time, you're just kind of used to it and you just blow it off. It's not something that I get offended over or care about anymore. You just kind of mute people. It's just like a game. You just delete them off. Right.
You can go on Twitter and be like, I really wish I had the championship Shyvana skin. Sad face. And then wait.
I have more guy friends on my friends list that say I'm a girl, give me skins, than I have girls on my friends list with that.
That is the...
I'm not surprised.
That is the truth. Chiro would know he's in that group of people.
Okay. I do know people that do that shit, and I think it's hilarious.
Guys, I am Grill. Send me skin.
See, I don't need to pretend I'm a girl because Adam, you buy me skins anyway.
I buy you pretty little
that's
dresses
so
and
sweet.
beer. Look at the cat.
I don't know what to do.
Okay, I was gonna say that was last because I have one more question to answer, and I think this is a good question to kind of end the podcast with. After that, what is League of Legends discussion? Jody writes in, I have trouble playing consistently over long periods of time. This might be something you guys, if you have a new friend who's joining the game, whatever it is, might have an issue playing because they're losing. I win a ton of games in a row, then I lose a ton of games in a row. This happens all the time, leaving me to go between Season 3 and Season 5 for the majority of the time. Or is it Silver? Silver 3 and Silver 5. I was like, for the majority of the time. How can I play more consistently so I don't have these huge win-loss streaks? Play with friends. Find friends and play with them. Join the T-Force chat in-game and find friends and play with them. That's the only reason I play this game anymore.
Yeah, well, it's different when you're trying to strive to be better in a solo queue sort of thing. Then you may want to find somebody that's non-ragey to try and do it with all the time because that can be really fun. But if you're getting burnout from solo queue games, I am a big believer that if play two solo queue games a night, and if you have a really tough loss, just take a break from solo queue and go play normals.
Yeah, play till you lose. I know you put win/lose streaks as something you want to avoid, but I know you don't want to avoid win streaks. Win streaks are awesome. So if you're playing a lot of games in a row, you're winning, you're on a roll, you're in the zone, keep playing. But then once you lose, maybe maybe you'll start going on tilt. Play one more game. I like Chira's 2-game rule. If you are playing a bunch of games in a row, because this happened to me a lot during the season. I was ping-ponging back and forth between Gold 3 and Plat promos, and then I could never get there. But it's because I had this OCD thing in my head where I have to get a win before I go to bed. So I have to get a win. I can't leave my computer desk without a win. And my MS is acting up. I've got the Tyrannosaurus claws trying to move my mouse around. But I'm like, I must win, play another one. And I'll be pissed, and I'll hit play again. As soon as we get out of the game, play again.
That is the best way to
like,
lose rating.
You know what's funny, Claude?
And I have.
2 or 3 years ago, whatever it was, when I was living with a girl, and I would play the game. I'd have my game nights. If I didn't win that game before I went to bed, I pretty much did the same thing as you, and I would get worse and worse. I would go to bed in the worst attitude ever, and then we would fight, or I'd wake up in the morning and be a pissing match. Like, don't do it. Just walk away from the game on a high note. You lose one, go, all right, I'm gonna walk away, go get a beer, and go to bed.
Yep, it's not too bad. You lose one, okay.
That's like League of Legends either. I mean, like I used to do arenas hardcore way back in the day in like season 2 and 3 on World of Warcraft. I know so many people who fall in the trap are like, we're just gonna play, like we have to end on a win. You got to go out on a high note. It's like
you don't feel good though because you want to win another time.
When you've spent 3 hours grinding out to a pretty high rating and then you hit a slump. Don't keep going on the slump because all that work just disappears. If a lot of this game, and this is the same advice I give to people who are in a promo and they're like, what do I do in a promo game? What you need to do in a promo game is stop stressing about winning or losing the promo game.
Yep.
So many people get into promo games and lose, not because they're
lock up. Yes.
You're too afraid to lose the game, and you're too busy thinking about losing that you don't pay attention to when you're winning.
I've been trying all season to get to gold. This is the only promo I've ever been in. If I lose this, it's all over. I'm never going to get back. Well, if you got there once, you're going to get there.
You're going to get there again.
And you're going to get there again. And you're going to get there again.
Either you're going to play too aggressive or you're going to try to force something, and that's going to force you into a really bad play. And I'm an amazing example of every time that I feel like I have to gain rank or feel that pressure where I'm really pushing myself to do something, I go on massive loss streaks. And it's not because I am worse than I was before. It's because I'm pressuring myself so much that I'm making bad decisions. I'm putting myself out of position. I'm trying to force things that are not supposed to happen. And it affects my play significantly. So the more that you can just level out your play and eliminate some of those bad factors, the easier time you'll have climbing up.
My absolute most bone crushing and saddening thing from this whole thing is when you're in your final game of promo, you've played your ass off and you're doing great, and you hit that point, you're like, holy shit, we might lose this game. And then you start stressing about it, and you're going to lose the game, and then out of the guy who went 0 and 8 in his lane, is starting to play super passive now on your team, and you try to make something happen and nobody does anything, and you try to force it and you die, and that guy's like, thanks for throwing the game, so-and-so, and you're like, you son of a bitch.
I just want to throw something out here. It might be a little far out, but it works for me. And that was a while ago. I saw actually a post on Reddit, and it turned out to be a video that explained about the concept of time and how time puts a lot of pressure on you, especially in solo queue. As everyone was saying, there's pressure to win your promos, win a game. Like, oh, I'm on this losing streak. I got to win before bed. That all comes from time. And if you just ignore time and you ignore the concept entirely and think to yourself, I've got all the time in the world to hit gold or to hit, whatever your goal is. I got all the time in the world to win another game. I don't need to win tonight. I don't need to win tomorrow. Heck, I don't even need to win the season. I can get to gold next season. Doesn't matter. And I don't expect that to work for everybody, but it's a little trick that I picked up and it actually works for me.
You know what? November 11th is coming up fast, so everybody get in there and start playing ranked.
And I know it's frustrating. Right before I started the podcast, I was plat, and then I didn't have internet for 6 weeks, and I decayed out of plat. And ever since then, it was like I was plat. I wanted again. And I pushed and pushed and pushed, and I'm not playing how I should. So I understand that it's frustrating, but I guarantee you that when I finally let it go and stop caring about it, I'm gonna hit it again. Probably within a week. It just comes back, but you just have to stop pushing yourself.
It's harder to recoup from a lose streak as far as the LP goes than to play the 2 games, you lose, you go to bed, you try again tomorrow. Because if you dig yourself a hole, you're going to have to win 5 or 6 games to
fill
get
that
back.
hole in to get back.
Yeah. So you are actually being more efficient when you're just playing at your best. And I like yours. I really like the 2-game rule, and I've used that, and I got back to plat, thank God. But you do 2 games out of 2 losses, I would say, because you could play a whole bunch of wins. But then as soon as you lose one, say maybe that was a fluke. Let me try another one. Oh shit, I lost another one. That's a 2-game lose streak. That's where it ends.
Yeah,
I'm
just
done.
give it a break, because you're going to go into that 3rd game just like, I have to win this one, or just like, fuck, I'm stuck with that same guy from last game, or like whatever. Like,
I hate that.
There's a lot of psychological pressure that can go into this game, whether you know that's happening or not, and that definitely influences how well you're going to perform. And if you're trying to go up in rank, you want to be performing at the best of your ability, because you can't count on anybody on your team to perform to the best of theirs. So why not stack the deck in your odds anyway?
Right. And like Cheer said, if you have like a really bad rager, the fuck's the 2-game rule? Go out, walk around, go for a run, make some dinner or something, but walk away, because there's nobody in this game who just blows it off that easy. Like, it gets to you eventually. So you just got to kind of give yourself some time to cool down, because even though you think, okay, it was just that guy, I'm fine, it'll be fine. Like, you may snap at somebody easier that next game because someone was a jerk the last time.
That's usually why I snap at DeClaude if I ever do it. It's because we're on like a 2-game losing streak. He does nothing wrong, but I'm just so mad that I'm like, God damn it, DeClaude, why'd you die?
Yep. But like Adam was saying, playing with friends, for ranked solo queue or duo queue, I actually don't like queuing with friends. I've tried it a couple times. The reason is because it tries to compensate by putting you with lower ranked players and then trying to find an enemy match with a duo around your same rank. So it messes with your MMR, and I want a good true example of my skill and where I should be at, so I try to do it alone, because the duo kind of I guess puts that askew.
I have had more trolly people in duo queue games than I've ever had in solo queue games.
Yeah. It's like, it's like, this guy was a douche. Let me throw him on this duo queue.
It does elevate your MMR slightly. If you do duo, it elevates your MMR slightly to compensate for the extra communication that you should have between the 2 of you.
For the enemy team, but not for your team.
Right. Well, no, it elevates your MMR, so it matches you with higher people on the other team.
Right,
so
but your team...
It's pretending that your MMR is higher than it actually is.
Yeah.
So your teammates will be lower and your enemy team will be higher, unless they have a duo queue also.
So, if you really have fun playing with somebody, or you have a great strategy for taking control of most of the game, for example, playing a jungler, and then a highly important role, like an AD carry or mid, where you can control and try to influence the game as much as possible, then go for it. You have fun. That's what you do. It works for Adam. But if you want a good idea on just your individual skill and where you should actually belong, just play individual.
And if a game is spiraling out of control and there's nothing you can do about it, I have a buddy who in the middle of games, like, it didn't matter if this guy's died like 8 times, whatever, and not him, but like other people in the game, he would just be like, that's okay, like, so-and-so in the top lane, you'll get him next time, or just like, start to have fun with it. Don't be a dick and don't be trolly. I mean, you could be overly nice and get a really sick sense of satisfaction out of being overly nice in a really bad situation, that it actually becomes funny, and it might just be because you're depressed or whatever, but remember, this is a game. Have fun with it.
Have fun with it.
Without taking away from other people's experiences.
Well, I think that's it. I think with that note that Chira just said, that's going to end the podcast. But I had one other piece that I wanted to say before the end of the podcast, and that
Punch related.
LCS rundown. It's on.
Oh,
pick
shit.
a date.
We have an 80 carry now.
It's on. We're rematching. Best of 3. It's on, buddy. We're gonna do it. Pick a date. Pick a time. Let us know.
Is it because we don't have 2 supports?
Yeah, we have somebody who can play AD carry other than me.
One of every role.
We have a team. We actually have a real team, and you guys also have a real team. Don't try to take it away. Don't try to take it away, because Mitch and all them can play AD carry. We have a real team now. Let's do this.
If they destroy us, we can blame Punch.
That's right.
Yeah, he's the new guy. Doesn't have the team synergy. Whatever.
So it is on. LCS rundown. You pick the date. You pick the time. We are playing a best of 3, and you guys are going to get wrecked. All right, guys, that's it for episode number 204 of the Trinity Force podcast. Thank you for everybody for listening. If you're a brand new listener, thank you for also listening. Do realize we do answer listener questions. You send those in. That's what today's episode was completely about. Normally, we go over patch notes. We go over awesome builds that are being pushed out there by pro players. We give you guys new champions to discuss. So I know that we have a lot of influx listeners after Worlds, and so I hope you enjoyed this interesting off-kilter style podcast we did today. We'll be back for you on Wednesday with episode number 205. We'll see you all in a couple days. Peace.
Love you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.